Wow, I forgot I even had that new intro. That was just fun. How is everybody doing tonight? I don't think I've used that intro since like November. I hope everybody's hearing me all right. I have a second camera here set up that I'm nervous is going to end up picking up two microphones. So bear with me tonight as I tried to set it up with my earpieces. But I can't tell if it always works correct. Oh, look at that. There we go. Anyways, so this is technically episode 17 of the show, and this is going to be part one of the new Base 3 demo. We'll call it demo. The Base 3 was released or announced, to say, in the 2022 Big Book catalog, which was 10 days ago now, on the 14th. And you've probably already heard about it, to be frank. We've talked about it in a catalog show, two catalog shows, and Ryan and I were on Train World show with Ken Jr. and Ken Sr. The other day, and that was a great show, and talked about the Base 3 and Cab3 app in a lot of depth there during that show. But here tonight, I'm going to start out talking about the Base 3 and the basics when it comes to connecting to and controlling trains using a Cab2 controller and a Cab1L remote controller as well. That'll be a good, easy start into the Base 3 discussion. There will definitely be future episodes of Demos with Dave going over other features of the Base 3 and other ways of using it, such as the Cab3 app. That information on the Cab3 app is also in the latest catalog. And then there will be other future episodes as well, such as going over LCS compatibility using the Base 3, and plenty of other things, such as using memory modules, using the updated legacy system utility that will be tailor-made for the Base 3 as well, and other yet to happen episodes. But first things first, let's take a look at the Base 3 and some of its basic features and get diving into talking about how we connect up the Cab2 remote and Cab1L remote with it. So let me bring in my camera here I got on the side that has the Base 3 already lit up. There we go. See, and that was, I was afraid, dual mics. So let me figure out how to disable one of these microphones. All right, can you hear me? Are you hearing double? Hopefully that has it fixed. So let's talk about this guy here. And again, if you're hearing double or echo, just type it in the comments, and I'll, me and two cell phones or in a computer. And anyways, here's the Base 3 prototype. This is actually, this is prototype number 1. There's 3 prototypes currently total all across the world, 2 of them here and one of them at an undisclosed location. Base 3 prototype number 3 is actually up there. You want to look at the back of my head for a minute, but this is for those who might be familiar with this guy, in the past, I had this as the LCS display at some shows, York, Springfield, others. And I've retrofitted, changed out the top here, and I'm putting other pieces on it, getting ready for the Springfield, Massachusetts train show here coming up at the end of the week. So we are going to ship this guy out tomorrow along with all of our other equipment for that show. We'll be flying up Thursday, setting up our booth Friday, and then hopefully some of you guys out there will come and see us at the big E-Train show this weekend. I think doors open at 9 a.m. and go until I get so tired of talking that I just fall over, which only takes like an hour. So, anywho, back to this guy, prototype number 1. So currently you see the orange LED on the LionChief logo lit up. That is because now you're saying you got double sound. You guys were good for a minute, now you're saying you got double sound. You guys can't make up your mind. Double sound. No. Fire. I really just wish I could turn off. All right. Hopefully now my phone will stop changing its status. I swear cell phones have minds of their own sometimes. Going back to the base though. I'm gonna actually turn it off. For a second. Still double. I wish this program would just let you disable a microphone. Oh, you know what? There we go. I'll just get rid of my face. You won't have to look at me for a while. That'll do it. So now you should only hear one instance of me. So now let's talk about the Base3, now that I, ditched my face. So back to this. Holy cow. There is a power switch that we put in the back. Let's just talk about the back connections here real quick. This guy here is your power cord. I've got it plugged in underneath the desk. Then there's also a master on-off switch here, something the Base2 did not have. And then as we look across here, this is your track binding post, same exact post that the Base2 has. And I just have it connected to my track with an alligator clip. Then you have 3 LCS PDI ports, a USB port, and the Base3 will come with a USB cable. And then this is the memory module, the guy here, for things like when we used to do the orange modules with engines. But each Base3 will also come with a writable black module so that you can download your Base2 database of engines and transfer that over to the Base3. And I'll get more into memory modules and LCS stuff in a future episode of the show, but I just wanted to show you the back here. But anyways, if you flip that on switch, you're going to watch the LED light show up. Now, ignore the red lights you're seeing through here. Those are just shining through the 3D printed case just from diagnostic lights that we have. So we have kind of onboard diagnostic lights on the Base3 for telling us all systems are go, or we have different light flashing for just different communications that are R&D based. So ignore that light for now. You guys care about the light on the outside. But I'm going to reconnect my PC to this guy. And when I do, you'll see the orange light glow. And again, what that means is that there is a device that is Wi-Fi connected. So when that orange light is on, that means that you have something like a PC connected, or you have the Cab3 app connected, or even the iCab app, as this will be compatible as well. That is all that that LED means. Now, where I want to go here is I want to begin talking about how the Base3 interacts with the Cab2 remote. I already have the Cab2 remote set to the same channel. You see when I turned it on, my engine's moving, I'm hitting buttons. So you already are prepared here. You get a light show when you're sending commands from the remote. But before the Base3 jumps ahead of me like it's wanting to do, what we do, you press the remote channel on the front of the base. Remote channel, even though you can't see it in the video here, but if you look at the artwork in the catalog, you'll see that the remote channel will be the center push button here. So if you push that once, you're going to get the remote, which is the yellow LED bar here. And that's going to flash the number of times that you have the channel set to. And I have it set to channel 8. Easy peasy. Now, if you have it set to channel 8, or, obviously these will come as set to channel 1, you just press the remote channel button until you pick the channel number you want. It's that easy. If I wanted to change this to channel 9, I would just push that button one more time and the flashing would change to channel 9. So super easy to change the channel on the Base3. And correspond on the Cab2 remote. Now this guy's already set to channel 8, but if you wanted to, you push the CTC button, and then you just scroll on through till you get to your channel. And here you just press channel 8, Base3 prototype number 1, all good to go. And there, now you're connected. Woo, light flash. You can always tell you're connected if you press any button on the cab remote, you're going to get a light show. So that's how you tell. Now the process is similar using the Cab1L remote. Now on the Cab1L remote, what you do is you remove the little cover down at the bottom, and the set button is down here. You hold down that set button, and then you press your channel number. So if I press 8 and you hear the remote beep and the lights flicker on the base, that means it connected. So now you press any button again, and you see the lights flickering. So now this is connected to the Base3 as well. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So that's great. Now the remotes are both connected to my base, and I'll just run the 280 sample here I have on the track. I'll just get that going just so you can see that it's actually controlling it. Now, I want to point out one thing. This is the prototype Base3, right? So it's not going to do everything correctly until the unit ships, right? So as of right now, when I send any command from the legacy remote through the Base3 and over to the engine that's on the track, you're going to see the blue and the red LED bars also flash. The blue means there's a signal going out via Bluetooth, and the red means there's a signal going out over RF. Now, the blue is for Bluetooth locomotives, and the red is for RF LionChief locomotives. So even though we're controlling a legacy engine right now, there are commands being sent out to non-existent Bluetooth and RF legacy or RF LionChief engines. Before we ship this, we plan on changing it so that the Base3 automatically detects the engine type that you're connected to. So if you're controlling a legacy engine, it won't send out commands over Bluetooth, so that way you don't see that LED flicker, right? You would end up seeing only the yellow one flicker, which is the light that's for a Cab2 or a Cab1L remote. So yeah, now controlling this guy is no different than what you were used to with the Cab2. Right, it does everything. Change it to a different number. You just switch to the switch underneath and to program, and you hit engine, your number set, and flip your switch back, and the Base3 will remember it in its database. So that's pretty cool. And I want to show you the same thing with the Cab1L. And I know you guys are over there asking questions. Let me just run through the information via the Cab2 and the Cab1L first, and then I'll go back and scroll through your comments and questions. I do want a large pepperoni pizza with extra cheese, so O-scale every day on YouTube. I will take one of those as well. So over here, we got engine 1. And it works. Again, everything you're used to. Pretty neat. So connecting your Cab2 and your Cab1L remotes, super simple. Now I want to talk about the Cab2 real quick. And in terms of the Cab2 more specifically, I want to talk about the firmware. The firmware version for the Cab2 that I have here, as you'll see, is 1.70. We released 1.70, I want to say it was early November. So that is available to download on the Lionel support site. And you can update your Cab2 remote with that using a Base2 if you don't want to wait, or you can wait until you get your Base3 and do the update that way as well. The system utility that will be available with the Base3 will allow you to flash modules. So you can put the 1.70 onto a module and use that to program your Cab2 remote. But anyways, the 1.70 firmware update for the Cab2, like I said, was released back in November. And that had things such as new type for Vision aux tenders, and there were a few other bug fixes in there as well. One thing that we didn't publicize, obviously, back then was that there was also firmware updates that are specific for the Base3. Now, the changes that are in 1.70 for the Base3 are not necessary to operate one of the Cab2s with the Base3, but it is recommended. The changes are definitely more on the support side for Bluetooth and RF LionChief engines, as well as information sharing with the engines sending data back and forth with LCS sensor tracks that include information on the engines, as well as the fuel and water levels. And I don't really want to go into all the updates that we put in, but I do recommend when you get your Base3 to update your firmware up to 1.70. And then you can see base version 0.57. That's because that's our prototype firmware at the moment. These will ship with version 1.0. But 0.57 is just for me for now. You guys don't get to play with it. Just kidding. Well, not kidding, but big deal. All right. Now that you've seen that wonderful gallantry of cinematic masterpiece, I am going to switch this legacy engine over, and I want to show you guys how to go about doing a RF LionChief engine. So this is an RF LionChief engine. It was a zombie response unit. We did this set, gosh, it was either 2015 or 2016. It's been a while now. So for this guy, this very loud engine, let me, turn its power off so I can talk for a minute. This is an RF LionChief engine, which now the Base 3 supports controlling both RF and Bluetooth LionChief engines. So for the RF engines, you'll be able to assign them to TMCC IDs 2 through 9. It has to be single digit for the RF engines. And how you program one into the Base 3 is that obviously there are no run program switches on both LionChief Bluetooth and LionChief RF engines, like there are with legacy engines. So those run program switches are actually on the base itself. Now, since this is a prototype, there's no labels on here, but if you look at the catalog again, you can see the labels. And the switch here all the way on the right, that is the RF LionChief run program switch. I put that guy there. I'm going to flip this switch up to program. And then in the Cab2 remote, I'm just going to assign this guy number 3. Why not? And it took a second there, but now you can see Zombie Apocalypse. And number 3. Oh, forgot something. So when you've got an RF LionChief or a Bluetooth LionChief engine, you can't have it set to legacy. This one's actually TMCC, so you got to change it over to Cab1. And then your sounds, you want to go over to just regular old rail sounds. Where did I get that backwards? It does have to be TMCC. Oh no. Ha! You got to put the switch back to run. There we go. Run program switch always has to go back to run. But yeah, you do want to make sure that you're either in TMCC or Cab1 mode. These do have to run as faux TMCC engines. If this was set to legacy, you would not have control of the engine. So yeah, here's a LionChief engine being run with the Cab2 remote. Now, since this is RF engine, and I am using the Cab2 on the final version of the Base 3 when it ships, you will see the yellow LED flash and you will see the red LED flash. The yellow LED meaning the Cab2 remote, sending a command from the Cab2 to the base, and then the red LED means there's a command being sent from the base to the locomotive. So fun times. That thing is loud. All right, let me get that off the track. Oh, so now that I remember that you have to actually put the run program switch back to run, I've only worked here 7 years. You'd think I wouldn't remember that? All right. I want to try the same thing with a Bluetooth engine. Now with the Bluetooth engine, it's not going to just have the background sounds running. Rather, you're going to hear the chirp. If you have any of the newer Bluetooth engines, LionChief Ready to Run sets from 2017 on, you'll be very familiar with this sound. So we're going to do the same thing to program this guy, only we're going to use the Bluetooth run program switch, which is the middle switch here. I'll put that up into run. And I'm going to save the zombie engine for 3, so let's go to a different channel. Just number 2 here. Hit set. Once you connect it up. Now, put it over into the run position. Holy cow. And you can control the train. Woo. Pulling my phone off the track. The phone off the receiver. I had the throttle up high for some reason. But yeah, so now you can control a Bluetooth engine as well. And one thing about these guys, if you change it to DC or diesel, when I go over to a Cab1, I prefer the, not Cab1, go over to TMCC. It'll run in the TMCC mode, but then you'll get the icons too. So that's neat. All these buttons work as long as the engine has functionality. The volume buttons do work here. Obviously, if this was a LionChief Plus engine, you'd have couplers and other things like that. So these engines are not TMCC. These engines are not legacy. So you do not have all the other features that those engines would have. Obviously, this engine doesn't have smoke. It doesn't have the tower comm. It only has crew talk. But nonetheless, control your stuff using a Cab2 remote. And everything that I just showed would be the same with the Cab1L as well. Now, one thing that I have actually not told anybody about yet, and you might have seen me as I program these, but and since I powered down the engine, you no longer see the info. But if I power it back up, connected back to the engine, I got the wrong one. My apologies. So we don't have this feature working in Bluetooth, but we have the feature working in RF. This feature will be working in the Base3 before we ship it. Just doing some final cleanup on the Bluetooth code. But anyways, now we're back to our RF on my dirty track. Go back over here to engine 3. And you see here it says Zombie Apocalypse. And it has like the name, and the name's already set. It has the road number too. So you see 5097, 5097. So just wanted to show that. So with Bluetooth and also with the RF engines, there actually is two-way communication. So the Base3 knows what engine it connects to, and it can send that information up to the cab. The Cab2, you won't have to enter in your RF LionChief or your Bluetooth LionChief engine name and number. It'll automatically populate. And that information will be the same too for the Cab3 app. That information will be stored in the base, and those engines will be stored in the base as well until you decide to clear it. So if we want to do that real quick, let me turn the engine back on. Obviously, we have the Zombie Apocalypse still connected. To say I don't want the Zombie Apocalypse there anymore, so you take your RF switch, put it back into program, engine 3 set. With the engine off, engine 3 set. What that will do is actually erase it from the database. So that engine will no longer be saved to the Base3. Just a quick tip, I guess. Anyways, so that was fun. I've gone over, let me switch back over to me real quick. It's me, Mario. So that is the usage of the Cab1 remote, Cab1L remote, RF LionChief engines, and Bluetooth LionChief engines. And the show's already 30 minutes long, but I've been able to cover all that information pretty quickly, which is kind of nice. So what I'm going to do here is scroll back up through your comments and questions, because I know there are probably quite a bit of questions. And if you have any more questions that are Base3 related, now's the time to throw them in. I do want to answer some of these before I sign off for the night. Whew. Bob, you said it seemed to look a lot bigger in the catalog. I know it looks a little bigger, but my design goal when I designed the mechanical of the base was to actually make it the same size, if not smaller, than the Base 2. That's because I wanted to have people be able to just swap this out with the Base 2 on their layout and not having to make all new room and swapping things out and moving things around. So it's nice to have a petite control unit here. So it's around the same size as the Base 2. A little bit wider, but not as tall. Can you connect Android or tablet? So yes, and I will cover the Cab3 app in a future episode of this show. I want to dedicate, if not one, maybe 2 episodes of this show just to show them the Cab3 app and how it interacts with the Base 3. But we are designing the app to run with both Android and iOS, and that will be for both smartphones and tablets. So that's kind of what I'm excited about, because I like the bigger screen of a tablet when it comes to having giant fingers. I mean, you guys can see me trying to use my cell phone just on this show, right? It's laughable. So it'll be nice to be able to run this with the tablet. I've seen quite a few questions about the Base 3 and MTH. The Base 3 itself cannot operate any MTH engines, but you can interface the Base 3 into the TIU from MTH. The only way to do that is by using the LCS SER2, which I do believe most of their literature states already that you need the SER2. I know with the Base 2 you can connect directly back into the DB9 port that way. There will not be a DB9 port on the Base 2 at this point. That's kind of a really old and obsolete method of communication, so nobody really uses DB9 in new products anymore. But we will still continue to make the SER2, and that is how you will be able to interface with the MTH unit. All right, let's see what else we got. When is this going to be released? Well, we are working on cutting tooling now and acquiring all the components. My goal is to have this shipped and have it make the year. The trick with that, as with any new tooling, is the wait on the tooling. It takes a long time to cut new tooling for any project, whether it's a locomotive or the Base 3 or a freight car or whatever it is. But yeah, the goal is definitely to have this shipped this year. Let's see what else we got. Timothy said, I don't want to run with my phone. You don't have to. That's why I wanted to do this episode tonight. You have the Cab2 for those that still have Cab2 remotes. And then there is the Cab1L as well. And the Cab1L will continue to be manufactured. They are actually in production right now. And we should have those into our warehouse sometime in April or May. I would say late April, by the time the boat gets over here. I have a few legacy engines that I've never been able to activate, or features that I've never been activated since I don't have a Cab2. Will the Base 3 allow me to access those features? The question is yeah, or the answer is yes. If you have the Base 3 and the Cab3 app, you will have all features available for any of our engine types now. My number one goal with the Cab3 app is to make sure it has every functionality that the Cab2 has. So you will not be losing access to any of the features that the Cab2 has. And even with the Cab1L, you can access the majority of features. And I'll show this too someday, but the Cab1L remote does have the ability to quill the whistle on legacy engines. It has 2 levels instead of 3, but that is one thing that it can do. All right, Chris, with a Base 3, do I need a PC to update the Cab2, or can the Base 3 update a module on its own? So you still need the Base 3 to be connected to a PC. That way you can download the information for the Cab2 software to the module, but you do not need to physically connect the Base 3 to the PC. We can do it over Wi-Fi now. And you can also do it with the USB. The Base 3 will include a USB cable, as some people's desktop PCs do not have Wi-Fi. In terms of the Base 3 firmware itself, since we do have so many ideas for future product enhancements and upgrades in the future, I said future toys, but the firmware for the Base 3 is going to be very easy to update. using the Cab3 app. It will be updatable over Wi-Fi, and the Cab3 app will actually reach out to our website and pull down the updated firmware automatically, and then inform you when there's an update available for the Base 3. So you won't have to fumble around with making modules and all that stuff when you want to update your firmware in your Base 3 in the future. All right, what else we got here? RF LionChief engine with no Bluetooth is obscure. I mean, we made RF LionChief and LionChief Plus engines for 3 or 4 years. So there are a lot of them out there, and we're able to support all of them, except for the very first generation RF Thomas is the only one we can't support. That's the only one whose RFID we do not know. We even tried sniffers and couldn't figure it out. But other than the very first gen Thomas, we do support every other RF LionChief and LionChief Plus engine. And the Base 3 will have all that information stored on it. All right, how good will the reception on the RF and Bluetooth engines on big layouts? That is a good question. RF engines naturally have a good range of anywhere from 80 to 100 feet maximum. Remember, too, reception depends on obstacles. When you have open air, it's always the best case scenario. But on layouts, you have things such as tunnels and bridges and other obstacles in between your controller and your train that can reduce your range. For the most part, when I say something like 80 feet, that's the maximum. If you have the engine inside of a tunnel, your range might be decreased to 40 feet or whatever. It all just depends. So Lionel Bluetooth engines since 2017 have had Bluetooth Lite 4.0. And one thing that's always frustrated me about 4.0 was the very short range it had. Most I ever got was 20 to 30 feet, which is good for a starter set engine, not so good for people with decent sized layouts. So in 2021, we started upgrading our Bluetooth products to Bluetooth 5.0. To start, that was Bluetooth 5.0 ready to run engines in the 21 big book that were marked 5.0. And then in the 21 C2 catalog, all the engines produced there and on will be getting Bluetooth 5.0. So any of those engines will be getting about 100-foot range versus the 20-foot range that the Bluetooth 4.0 gets. And the Base 3 is also going to be shipping with the Bluetooth 5.0 module in it. So you will get at least 100-foot range using the Base 3 and a Bluetooth 5 engine. Unfortunately, Bluetooth 5.0 in the Base 3 does not increase the range for a Bluetooth 4.0 engine. The system is only as good as its weakest link. So if you have a Bluetooth 4.0 engine and a Base 3, you're still going to be limited to about 20-foot range. But we have made the advancement to move everything to Bluetooth 5.0 going forward, and that gives good range there. All right, let's see what other questions we got. I know you guys are asking more. I'm trying to answer them all here because I know they're important for planning your future and layout and whatnot. So, LionChief reception. The run program switch mistake. Can you use the speed steps with the RF engines? The RF engines had a lot less speed steps than legacy TMCC and Bluetooth engines. So those do kind of go quickly. Even some of our ready-to-run Bluetooth engines have lower number speed steps, but they have 23 speed steps on our Bluetooth LionChief engines, which is similar to what TMCC engines had back in the day. Obviously, legacy engines have 200 speed steps, which makes a world of difference. That's just a difference in the product lines. Garrett said, "Can you please say hi to me?" Hi, Garrett. There we go. Can you demo the Bluetooth locomotives on the Cab3? I definitely will be doing future episode on the Cab3 app, including the running Bluetooth, RF engines, legacy and TMCC engines, as well as interfacing with other parts of your layout using the LCS system. There's a lot of content to cover when it comes to the Cab3 app, and I will be doing all of that in a future episode. RJ asked about conventional engines. The Base3, just like the Base2, can interface with command control transformers. Those include the ZWL, which I would say is probably the easiest one to use in terms of command control transformers. But then it also can control legacy Power Master. So there's two versions of the legacy Power Master we have. We have the traditional 180 watt, and then we have the 360 watt Power Master as well. And those, what they do is allow you to have command control of your track power so that you can use your remote to control your conventional engines. So yes, that will that will have all that compatibility as well. All right, another question, is the Cab2 to Base3 signal more robust? So one improvement that I enjoy on the Base3 over the Base2 is the signal integrity of the TMCC signal. We are using the same radio that was put into the Base1L, and it doesn't have the exterior antenna that you're used to seeing on the Base2. It actually has an on-chip antenna, which we've seen in testing is more powerful than the external antenna. So that's why the Base3 will be getting the on-chip antenna. Original Cab1, that one's fun. I still have some testing there. With the Base2, you can connect a original Base1 to it using the DB9 cable and running your engines with the Base2 using the original Cab1 remote. To have that functionality with the Base3, you'll have to use an SER2 again, just like it's the same product I was talking about earlier for interfacing with MTH-TIUs. You have to use the SER2 in the LCS line. And I foresee us needing the SER2 more in the future. A lot of people still have TPCs, track power controller 300s and 400s, which were an older product for modifying your track power as well. Going back to what I was talking about earlier with the ZWL and the Power Master for adjusting track voltage or turning track voltage on and off. For the TPC users out there, you will also need the SER2 to integrate it into the system. Let's see what other questions we got. I know there's some more down at the bottom. I'm scrolling down, and give me some time here to get through them. Conventional, I answered. Ron Baker, see, this stuff continually gets more unbelievably complicated and complicated. Actually, my goal with the Base3, not only to integrate all of the different command control types into the Base3 for what LionL creates train-wise, but I wanted simplicity. It's the same simplicity we had with the Base2 in that you can use one wire to connect to your ground on your layout, so you can control legacy and TMCC engines. So really, to use the Base3, it's two wires, one that you plug into the wall and the other you plug into your track. And then we have the handheld remotes, the Cab2 and the Cab1L, which, using the procedure I showed earlier in the episode, is very easy to connect to your Base3. There's other things that are easy as well. You know, we added the LionChief RF and the LionChief Bluetooth, and adding those to your remotes is as easy as programming in a TMCC or legacy engine. Just the run program switches on the base instead of the engine. So that was another requirement, but it kind of also makes it the same for those that are used to programming engines this way. So there's another probably 10 things I could describe that make this an easier to use system. I know that can be overwhelming at first. When something is new, it can definitely be overwhelming. I've been in that camp as well. But the more videos you watch, and then when you get one on hand, you'll know that it's easier than you might think it is. So, can you use the buttons on the Cab1L and the phone at the same time? So the Base 3 is capable of running 10 devices concurrently, or having connection from 10 remotes concurrently. So if you have 5 Cab3 apps, 2 Cab2s, and 3 Cab1Ls, all connected to the Base 3 at the same time, sending commands concurrently, controlling it makes it a little iffy if 2 people are trying to control one engine at the same time, but it is possible, yes. But yeah, up to 10 devices, the Base 3 can do. Steve, the photo of the Cab3 app shows where's the train brake slider, yep, train link button, brake booster, all that stuff, yep. So the Cab3 app is similar to the iCab app in terms of having the slide screens. So when you take your phone and you slide left or right or up or down, that's where you'll get the different screens and you'll see the different buttons. External antenna option, nope. This, like I said a little while ago, this has the internal antenna for the TMCC, and in my opinion is more robust. Conrail asked, is that designed based on the Hellgate Bridge? The answer is yes. That was my design inspiration for designing the Base 3. We do have a storied history of doing the Hellgate Bridge, the actual product, Hellgate Bridge, that you could drive your trains over. And my inspiration for it, the Base 3 being a bridge, was that, in my opinion, the biggest accomplishment it makes is integrating all of the different LionL command control types into one. So you're bridging legacy over into LionChief, and so that's why I wanted the Base 3 to just kind of throw back to the Hellgate Bridge. And it's just, I picked that particular bridge because I just like it, right? I mean, I've seen it in New York City, and it also means something to LionL's history, so that's why I picked that. Chris asked, how do you connect Bluetooth LionChief Engines to the base? After this episode's over, you can go back in and watch it. I did do that probably 20 minutes ago. So, what else we got? Video game controller mapping. I have had a couple of people bring that up to me and send me emails, and I've seen videos of people doing that, and I just want to say that that is not out of the possibility. We do have that in mind now, and maybe someday in the future you'll see a physical Cab3 remote come out that is integrated with your your smartphone or your tablet. That's a big if, though, so don't quote me on that, but maybe when we get bored in a couple of years and we want to work on something new. Bill Clark asked Wi-Fi. Yes, this does have Wi-Fi built in. So it's kind of like taking the Base 2 and the LCS Wi-Fi module and smashing it in and then adding a bunch of radios and a slick power supply, and there's a lot of stuff in this little box. Multiple phones, I answered that one. The catalog, yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with the Base 3, but you're right. The catalog is shorter, Jack. It only has the scale stuff in it, the print version. If you go on to lionl.com, you can go and see the full digital version of the catalog. We definitely wanted to print the entire catalog. We went to a number of printing companies, and simply the paper shortage out in the world right now is crazy. So we simply could not get enough paper to print the whole thing. So that's why there's kind of the abbreviated version that is printed, and the full version is still available on lionl.com. Let's see what else we got. I've seen people asking, how do you connect LionChief trains? It's the same process I showed earlier in the video, whether it's RF or Bluetooth, using the run program switches to connect your LionChief engines to. We did make some LionChief RF engines back before 2017, and then everything now is obviously Bluetooth, and those are fully compatible with the Base3 as well. Lots of questions. I like it. Will the Cab3 app be optimized for iPad? Yeah, again, we are designing the Cab3 app to work with iOS and Android smartphones and tablets. Will 5G block Cab3? Will all my trains crash? No, apparently that's only the airlines right now. Oh, that's funny. No. Yeah, a lot of these are just questions I have covered. And remember, I'm going to have future episodes too about the Cab3 app and the Base3 again. So I will definitely answer additional questions in the future. Does the Base3 have a transformer on the power to wall cord like the Base2? The answer is no. New power regulations required that we upgrade to an internal power supply. So even though this, even though the Base3 is tiny, there's actually a pretty hefty little power supply underneath this circuit board. This circuit board is the power supply, and powers not just all the radios inside, but also the LCS chain and everything else. It's a 5 amp power supply. But that allowed us to get rid of the wall wart brick that the Base2 had. Watch a demo of the upcoming AC12s. Yep, I will do another demos with Dave, going over engine samples here. I'm waiting for a couple more to come in. Strasbourg 90, same thing. We got samples, and I'll eventually show those as well. There are some design updates that we have to make to the 210 before I want to show the samples, so that's why we haven't shown those yet. Can it make a good cup of coffee? No, but neither can I. Brad, no, the Base3s are not BTO. We will be ordering a set number of them to begin, see how sales of them are, and then forecasting the build every year from here on out. So you don't have to feel like you have to rush right now to order one, but if you want to be one of the first people that tries it out, be my guest and put your order in for it, that'd be great. A 5 amp power supply, will it use a USB cable for power? And the answer is no. I wanted that, but it simply would have been too taxing on the system when it comes to having the Base3 loaded down. Say you're controlling multiple engines using the different radios, and you have the PDI chain powered up with a bunch of different LCS devices. You're starting to approach that 5 amps that the power supply is rated for. And with modern cell phone chargers, 1 amp is on the low end, up to 3 amps for fast charging. So we would have had to have greatly increased the power supply, and that just wasn't feasible for this product. So yes, I will be at the Amherst Train Show, and I hope a lot of you people are too. I'll have the Base3s on display. Ryan will be there as well, probably to come up with more ideas to drive me nuts, like he does. When will instructions, owner manuals be available for the Cab3 Base3? I'm working on the website now, so we're going to have a digital form of the manual for the Base2, and that's because with future updates we'll be able to update a website, so you'll have the latest information, whereas a paper copy of the manual will become obsolete very quick. So the manual website will launch around the same time that these guys ship. So. All right, that looks like all the questions I'm going to cover tonight. Again, if any of you are going to be at Springfield this weekend, I'll see you there. And then I hope everybody looks forward to future episodes, Demos with Dave, when I go over other Base 3 features such as the Cab3 app and LCS and memory modules, etc. So that does it for tonight. I've annoyed everybody enough for 1 hour, and hope you have a good night, and see ya.